Ready to uncover the minds of covert narcissistic abuse survivors? Let's dive deep into this psychological labyrinth and unravel the enigma together. 1. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse will be in a constant state of confusion. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, a clinical psychologist, compares covert narcissists to emotional vampires. They suck the clarity out of your thoughts, leaving you feeling all foggy and unsure of yourself. Dr. Craig Malkin, another psychologist, talks about how covert narcissists mess with your sense of reality. They'll say one thing, then deny ever saying it. Or they might make you question your memories or feelings. It's like they're gaslighting you. That's when they manipulate you into thinking you're crazy. So, if you're dealing with this kind of situation, it's normal to feel confused. It's like trying to navigate a maze that keeps changing its walls. Your head is spinning, and you start doubting yourself. Remember, it's not you. It's their manipulation tactics. Experts suggest reaching out to an experienced therapist in this stuff. They can help you untangle the mess and find your way back to clarity. 2. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse will become overly apologetic about almost everything. Psychologists notice people who deal with covert narcissistic abuse tend to start saying sorry a lot, like way more than usual. They become super apologetic about pretty much everything. Experts think this happens because these covert narcissists mess with your head over time. They might twist things around so you think you need to be corrected. Dr. Robin Stern, a psychologist, says that victims of this kind of abuse can start apologizing all the time because they're trying to avoid conflict. They're so used to this tense atmosphere that they'll do whatever it takes to keep things calm, even if it means taking the blame for stuff that's not their fault. 3. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse will experience a loss of self-esteem. Dr. Lisa Firestone, a clinical psychologist, reveals, victims of covert narcissistic abuse often experience a gradual erosion of their self-esteem. It's like being in a maze of self-doubt where reality becomes distorted. According to another expert named Dr. Lisa Firestone, a pro at understanding human minds, people dealing with covert narcissists can slowly lose confidence in themselves. It happens because covert narcissists sometimes manipulate and control you without realizing it. So, imagine you're in a maze where every path makes you doubt yourself. It's like your self-esteem is taking hits at every turn. But remember, it's not you. The sneaky behavior of the covert narcissist messes with your sense of self. 4. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse will experience a loss of trust. Losing trust is a common outcome of dealing with covert narcissistic abuse. Dr. Craig Malkin explains that covert narcissists' manipulative tactics slowly erode your self-esteem and belief in your judgment. You start doubting everything, including your ability to trust yourself and others. Dr. Ramani Durvasula calls it a betrayal bond. It's like a twisted connection with the narcissist, even though they treat you poorly. It messes with your head and heart, making trusting your instincts harder. 5. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse will blame themselves for their bad experiences. Dr. Ramani Durvasula points out that covert narcissists are good at making themselves seem like the victims. They play the sympathy card so well that you start thinking you're the one who needs to apologize. So, victims of covert narcissistic abuse blame themselves because these manipulative people mess with their heads, making them doubt their reality and feelings. Remember, it's not you but the tactics they're using. As Dr. Durvasula says, trust your gut. Your feelings are valid. 6. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse may experience depression. Dr. Ramani Durvasula points out that covert narcissistic abuse can make victims feel disposable and unimportant. This emotional turmoil can contribute to the development of depression. Imagine constantly walking on eggshells, trying to please someone who's never satisfied. That stress and emotional drain can take a toll on your mental health. Dr. Craig Malkin explains that victims might start isolating themselves to avoid the narcissist's manipulation, which can also lead to feelings of depression. 7. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse may experience post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The emotional roller coaster caused by covert narcissistic abuse messes with your brain and your sense of safety. Over time, this can lead to symptoms that look a lot like PTSD. Things like flashbacks, nightmares, anxiety, and being easily startled. Dr. Ramani Durvasula talks about how these covert narcissists can leave you feeling crazy and disoriented. You're constantly on guard, like having your brain stuck in fight or flight mode. It can significantly mess up your mental health. 8. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse may experience an anxiety disorder. Dr. Judith Orloff, a psychiatrist, talks about how narcissistic abuse can leave emotional scars that affect your overall mental well-being. She says it can take a toll on your nervous system and leave you constantly anxious. Think about it. If someone you trust makes you feel like you're always wrong, you start worrying about every decision. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, a psychologist, discusses how this prolonged emotional stress can lead to anxiety disorders over time. Experts also point out that victims of this kind of abuse might develop hypervigilance. You're constantly on edge, watching for any signs of trouble or criticism. This hyper-awareness can quickly escalate into anxiety. 9. Victims of covert narcissistic abuse may practice negative self-talk or self-harm. Psychologists discuss how a toxic relationship with a covert narcissist reduces people's self-esteem and self-worth. When that happens, negative self-talk can creep in. It's like a spiral where they start believing they're the problem, even though the covert narcissist's behavior is causing all the trouble. Now, self-harm might also come into the picture. It is when someone physically hurts themselves to cope with emotional pain. Experts think that self-harm might be a way for the person to feel a sense of control in these situations. When everything feels chaotic and hurtful due to the narcissist's manipulation, hurting themselves might strangely make them feel like they're taking control of something. 10. Victims may fear asking for help because others might not believe them. There's this fear that if you speak up about the covert narcissist's true colors, others might doubt you or even side with the narcissist. It's like self-doubt, mixed with the fear of not being taken seriously. This is why some victims might hold back from seeking help or opening up about what they're going through. Dr. Ramani Durvasula explains it like this. Covert narcissists are chameleons. They're so good at playing the victim and appearing wonderful to everyone else that when someone speaks up about their behavior, others might not believe it. It's crucial to remember that our path doesn't culminate in despair. In fact, understanding the dynamics of covert narcissistic abuse is the initial stride toward healing and growth. If you've identified these signs within your journey, recognize that you're far from alone in this experience. With this awareness, you possess the tools to reclaim your identity and embark on a restoration journey. Whether seeking solace from supportive loved ones or enlisting the aid of professionals, remember that you hold a superhero's cape within you for this battle. Establishing firm boundaries will fortify your armor against further harm. It's time to break free from the chains of covert narcissistic abuse, emerging as someone more resilient and insightful. Your story isn't confined to their shadows. You wield the authority to rewrite your narrative, one empowered step at a time. As you navigate this transformative process, embrace the strength you've discovered within and walk forward with renewed purpose and vigor. If you are interested in narcissism topics, subscribe to this channel for more. Click that bell icon to get notified of future uploads. Watch another helpful video over here.